What was the tipping point of your last relationship? I was leaving the gym and told her I would be over to her apartment in about 45 minutes after I showered. I kid you not. At the 45-minute mark she was texting me upset that I wasn't there yet. I apologized and told her I had to go to the bathroom so it's taking a little longer, but I was on my way and almost there. Showed up at about the 50-minute mark. She would not open the door beyond leaving the security latch attached, and only to tell me to F off. So, after about 5 minutes of trying to reason with her to let me in and her responding that she didn't want to hang out anymore because I took too long because I was probably talking to some hoe at the gym, I decided to leave. When I got back to my apartment I figured might as well entertain myself and play some video games. About 40 minutes later she shows up to my place banging on the door. I happily open the door thinking she changed her mind. She sees that I was clearly playing video games and enjoying a glass of wine, walks over and picks up the wine and throws it on the ground, annoyed off that I found something to do other than stare at the wall because she didn't want to hang out with me. She sees how in shock I am at her reaction and tries to brush up the broken wine glass with her bare hands. She is bleeding and crying and I'm in shock and pleading with her to stop because she is tearing her hands up. I suggest she leaves and that was the last time we were in the same room together. What a whirlwind of a relationship that on was. Don't pity me, my friends. Pity the poor guy she married about 3 to 5 months after the day I described here in my story. He kept treating his dance partner better than me, would take her out for drinks to try she hadn't before, took her shopping with him, post photos of her online, etc., but wouldn't hold my hand in public. Nothing about me on social media whatsoever. Totes fine, but if you go on and on about how great your dance partner is and making it seem like your girlfriend doesn't exist, it doesn't feel great, etc. I have no issue with female friends or dance partners, but don't pay for dinner and drinks with them and then have your girlfriend pays for every single date night. I dropped $70 for a movie night, $40 of which were his drinks. Dude still hits me up whining about how we could have worked out, how he misses my cat, etc. I dumped him over a year ago. We moved into a house together and things were a little on the rocks, but I figured I could work a little harder and she would too. I had my doubts as she was a control freak and really only took what I said about things at face value. Really saw that later on after we split. We had a huge fight about the living room paint color. She said it was just awful and couldn't put up with it. We went round and round about it for a week or so until I finally just decided I could concede on this one, but that I got to choose the bedroom color. She described it as a cream color, but like adding too much creamer to coffee. Disgusted was her word for it. I want to say, I'm standing in the paint aisle on my day off and utterly exhausted from a week of work and remodeling. I'm dead tired and she's combing through the paint swatches. She finds the color and we get it mixed. We end up in an argument in the car as I'm opting for bed and she wants to paint. I told her it is better to do it during the day so we can open the windows and let it air out better. It was currently raining and I didn't want watermarks. It escalated and grew until she finally just got so pissed that she left. I decided to be nice and start painting the opposing window wall to at least show her I heard her thoughts. I got it all mixed up and dipped the roller, rolled over once and it all hit me at the exact same time. I was sick of her and her controlling attitude. I was done feeling like an idiot for things I didn't do wrong. I was tired of living her dream life. You know why it hit me? That paint was the exact same damn color as the wall. Things had been going downhill for a long time, and we ended up in marriage counseling, which was actually what did us in. Sitting in a room with her refusing to listen to me and her own counselor about things going on in our relationship really clued me into fact that things weren't going to get better. When she drove 4 hours to meet me at the hospital where my mom was dying, we had not been together for long, but she comforted me in such a way that I could never forget. I knew I loved her and I married her 1 year later. He told me his ex was the only person he'd miss WWE Monday Night Raw for. When my now ex-wife was arrested for having a sexual relationship with one of her female students. Interestingly, I couldn't use adultery in the divorce as UK law doesn't recognize same-sex encounters for heterosexual couples as adulterous. He told me he had to go to Minnesota for a couple months on business but actually bought a house there and was planning on tricking me into moving there with him. He and I had this moment, lying on the bed, listening to some music, in my room, while the sun was setting, the city buzzing away below us, after a long day, and I felt this wholesome feeling, like I knew where I belonged, and right then and there, he looks at me and said, "If you ever leave me, I'm gonna make your life hell." Guess I belonged far, far away from him. As to whether he actually fulfilled his promise, the breakup was ugly as expected and painful. We did love each other at some point, but it was the right thing to do, as I was unhappy and could not see a future together. During the breakup he changed from begging me to stay to calling me every name in the book, threatening to end it all, and in the year after he continued to write emails from different email accounts he created even under my name. That was weird, to stay true to his words. I didn't read most of them and at some point he stopped. My life after the breakup was beautiful, tough, like a huge burden had lifted, so I guess, no. But he tried. She wouldn't stop sleeping with her ex-boyfriend and then decided to marry him. She told me this via text. His crack addiction reared its ugly head, after he was clean for more than a year. He was on a 5-day bender, ignoring every single one of my messages until I said I'm leaving you. Then he said he was gonna kill himself if I leave him, something he said every time I tried to leave. I simply said okay, blocked him and sent an ambulance to his house. When the ambulance got there, his friend sent me a ton of abusive messages saying why the F would you do that, etc. Turns out the paramedics walked in on her sucking his dick. When she finally started to sober up from the year's worth of prescription meds and immediately said I don't want to be married anymore. In my case, the divorce was about 10 years ago. We married at 25, divorced at 29. We had about 6 good months between the wedding and her ailments presenting, 2 years of ever more potent prescription medication, a brief period of sobering up, then close to 2 years of separation leading to the divorce. She started telling me how she had to defend me to my friends after I had to miss watching a show with them to go into work. My friends told me that wasn't true and she spent the entire time shit-talking me. A few weeks after we started dating I caught a really bad sickness. I was lying in bed and coughing for days. The entire time she brought me soup and a steady supply of cough drops and tissues. This might seem small, but I think it set the tone of our relationship and I'll always remember that. We have been together for 3 years, going strong. First and last tipping point. They were married to a whole other person. I got tired of carrying her to bed after her nightly binge drinking. Also, her complete denial of being an alcoholic and refusing to get help. Standing in the kitchen early in the morning trying to work out if I would get more told off for taking my boyfriend now ex-st up in the wrong mug, not his favorite one, or for making a noise washing up his favorite one. Narcissist control freak with misophonia. Month after month after month. Excuses why he couldn't pay rent. And yet he would spend all his income on eating out, online gaming memberships, etc. Would also try to guilt trip me into getting him stuff constantly. One day we went to visit relatives in another state during the week before Xmas and my uncle snapped. He told him off about how he's manipulative and can see that what he does has dragged me down as a serious burden. I didn't attempt to intervene. He was absolutely right. And after we left, X bitched me out for not stepping up for him. We broke up the day after and suddenly I felt like I could breathe again. When we went on a 16-hour each-way road trip and didn't kill each other. Knew I was going to marry her after that trip. Turns out my ex kept a cat locked in the attic for several years, changed the litter boxes about once a month and gave her food, water every couple of days. He didn't really give a shit about her. He didn't have AC, so when I went up to check on her I was pouring sweat and had to leave within 5 minutes. I confronted him about her treatment and got the response, "It's just a cat." I don't know why he even had her in the first place. I told him the next week that I was taking her to give her a better home and he pretty much said do whatever. Once again, she's just a cat. She's 20 years old now and lives with me. She was hesitant of any signs of affection at first but is now the sweetest thing. Oh, also he was seeing someone else while we were still together. I was struggling with some mental issues and he told me to go fix myself, but that's another story. He was going out during the night to see 2 other girls. 2, and when I saw him during the morning he would be tired as hell because obviously he was out and tell me he had sleeping issues. I found out he was cheating on me with the 2 girls when they both saw me hugging him and went to scream at me. For the karma part, the 3 of us agreed to leave him and not talk to him again, and I'm still a friend with one of them. We went to a new country for both of us, Netherlands. I'm Portuguese, she's Polish. I got a job, she didn't. She became pissed and started stressing. I got a better job, she got an average one. Stress continued. So, in order to get an even better job she applied to work in another country, Italy. Got accepted and soon our relationship was over. We were doing long distance and had been having problems for a long time and had been trying to work through them or staying together despite how overdue a breakup was. Whichever. Anyways, I flew home to visit him for his birthday and felt like I was going to have a panic attack the whole time I was there. We had some fun and didn't fight a ton, but I was super tense. Finally, I get back and it just felt like such a relief. A couple months later, he was just about to visit me and we got in a fight and he threatened to cancel his trip and not come, something he did frequently when he visited. At first I argued against the idea but then actually considered it and realized what a weight off it was. I wish there had been a tipping point, but our relationship just died a very slow death because she had gradually been losing interest. Turns out she never actually left her ex-boyfriend and I found out when she blew up about me adding a picture of us together to my Facebook. She would threaten me with physical violence and self-harm for years if I ever left her. I was made to choose between my friends or her. Certain threats made if I'd choose friends over her, etc. Having to be in contact with her at all times if I wasn't with her. Going through my phone and years of messages with my closest friends whilst I'm asleep, etc. Deciding who I could follow on Instagram, be friends with on Facebook based off how attractive they were or if she deemed them as a threat, etc. Even if they were long-term friends, makes me feel sick thinking about it all again. Crazy stuff. I was younger and didn't realize how abusive she really was, lost a lot of friends because of her. She eventually did another one of her fake breakups and I decided not to crawl back to the person that would always tell me that no one else would ever love me, etc. Said okay, I'll pick up my stuff tomorrow or something along those lines, and then she obviously freaked out realizing I wasn't falling for her tricks and playing into her usual games. Haven't seen or heard from her in 4 years now. She just kept getting drunk and going crazy. I had to call the police on her because she took a bunch of pills when I left during one of her binges. She would call me at night often, drunk as hell, and yell at me, and then threaten to cut herself when I refused to come over at 1 in the morning. She still drinks to this day. We had been together for 5 years. She started dating someone else for the last 5 months of our relationship. I work night shift as a police officer and I only found out because I realized I left something at home when I left for work and went home to get it around midnight, and this random guy was sleeping in my bed and my girlfriend was nowhere to be found. She was making a run to Walgreens. We went on a trip to Boston together. She had kids, so this was our first chance to get away together. Just the 2 of us. We were at a Red Sox game and I noticed she was acting strange, being quiet and distant. Normally she was always a bubbly, happy person. For the rest of the trip she just shut down and was no longer present. She wouldn't talk about what was bothering her. The next day after getting home we talked on the phone and I finally got it out of her that it was over. Found out later from a mutual friend that I bored her and she only realized it when we finally spent an extended period of time together. She pulled a knife on me during intercourse. Next time get her permission. First wife. And this is in total retrospect. She was the one who finally bailed due to her mental health issues. The scary part was that she shot my dog because she did not like him. I heard later she shot her next husband's dog because it got out of the yard while she was late for work and didn't have time to chase it. Both husband number 2 and I just concluded we were both lucky we got out of relationships with her alive. Threw a frying pan at my head, ducked it, started telling me she was going to call the police and accuse me of hitting her. Dodged a bullet there, dude. Well, you dodged a frying pan, but also a bullet. At a food festival, standing in line for like 10 minutes for some French toast thing. He ordered first and got his food, but when it was my turn, I realized it was cash only, but I only had my debit card. He turned to me and basically yelled, "Wow, what are you going to do?" After being together for 10 months, living together, and splitting everything 50-50. Even though his salary was double mine, he wasn't willing to spot me $5 for French toast, and he had to call attention to it loudly in front of the whole line. Then we walked away from the vendor with him chomping down on his French toast and me empty-handed. It seems trivial, but if I had just stood in line with someone I love or even a good friend, I would have just covered them. It gave me the impression that he would never really have my back. I could never see him the same after that, and we broke up the next month.